Namaste, welcome to Satsang today. And as always, want to start with what Satsang is and why it's important, because it might not be immediately obvious to when we're starting along a path why being in a community, being a family like this is so important. Satsang is not just to think about who we really are, but to experience it directly, because only the direct experience of who we actually are is going to begin to allow us to live in peace without the inner division, the ideas of separation, and everything that comes with that, suffering in general and all of its forms. So satsang is more than just thinking or talking about awakening, and it has been done for thousands and thousands of years. As long as there has been people who want to wake up, there has been some form of satsang. And it really means just to sit together in truth. And it really is the one being experiencing itself through all of these bodies and using all these insights and sharings and challenges to wake up faster. What is it to wake up? It's to realize that there is only one of us here, appearing as all of this apparent multiplicity and diversity. There's only the one being appearing as formlessness and form, sentient and insentient, in all this infinite variety, but never actually having been divided or split into even two, let alone billions. And we just got back from an amazing retreat that we had last week in Glastonbury in the UK. And there was a kind of a theme that came up in that retreat that I want to talk about today, which again, in my own journey was very, it took me a long time to understand what people actually meant, teachers meant when they said this. And the theme is to stay as the self, to stay as the infinite self, the one being, the consciousness, the presence, the silence, the stillness, by whatever name you want to call that. It really is just that which has no name, but also has been given many names. And for me, I heard this instruction over and over again, stay as the self. Like, what does that actually mean? What do I actually do in any particular moment when I'm suffering? How do I come back to clarity quickly and easily? How do I shortcut my foray into the mind and my imagination that I'm a separate being alone in the world? And what I eventually figured out about this instruction to remain as the self, abide in truth, stay as the self, these all are ways of saying the same thing, is that it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing all the time. So it would be to live as the infinite self, the truth, in that moment, whatever that is. So for myself, at first, I thought that instruction meant only to keep my attention on that which is formless. So right now, you can do this here with me. That which is aware of what your ears are hearing, that which is aware of how your body feels, that which is aware of what's going on wherever you are watching this, tuning into this. That awareness is your real nature, and there is only one awareness. And it's experiencing itself through all these human forms so that it can communicate and talk and contemplate and come to a recognition of itself. For me, I thought that staying as the self or abiding in truth meant to always keep my attention on that. And sometimes that is it. But if you've ever tried to keep your attention on the awareness all the time, or silence, stillness, presence, pure subjectivity of your real nature, you'll find it incredibly difficult to do. Naturally, attention snaps back to looking at a thought, an object, a subtle form like a thought or an emotion going on inside, some resistance arising, or some form in a tangible, visible, external way to the body, at least, because they're all inside you, the forms. So first of all, I had this very, very narrow definition of what it meant to live as the truth. And even we could substitute here what it means to be awakened as well. Sometimes it meant keeping my attention on my real nature. Sometimes it meant something very different, though. It could mean if I have gone back, if my attention has gone back to thoughts, despite my best practice, attempts to keep it on the formless self, if I've got lost in illusion again, what does it mean then to abide as the truth, to stay as the self? Could that mean then that I can live as the self? What would the self do in that moment? Well, we know what the ego or the separate self would do in that moment. It would probably go into self-blame or self-judgment because we've lost our focus on what's real and gone back to imagining. What would the self do? What would it mean to live as the self in that moment? Maybe it would be to forgive yourself. It happened. You went there. You went into illusion. You wouldn't have done it if you had any perceivable control at that point, but you did. So can you forgive yourself? Can you see? It could also be to live as a self in that moment, to see that attention is just moving by itself, that you're not even responsible or capable as a doer of actions. Even the doer of spiritual practice, you are not that. It's an intention to bring attention back to the self. You're not actually doing that. So in this situation, it might mean something different to stay as a self. In another situation where we might be really battling with a story that we can't have what we want, we can't find love, we don't deserve love, happiness, awakening, whatever it is that we want, what would it mean in that moment to stay as the self? What would that look like? And again, we come back to it might mean something very different. Maybe in that moment, it is to challenge that story. Is this true? Our egoic sense of self would just believe that story. Our real nature is going to want to find out if it's actually true. Or if you have already questioned, maybe living as the self in that moment means to just remember, to run that thought through your mind intentionally. This story does not apply to me. I am free already. What would it mean to be the self if you are watching one of your friends having a really hard day? Would it mean, like I thought originally, to try to tell them that they're not really a separate being, whether they're interested in hearing that or not? Or would it be simply to, in that moment, to see what the infinite self wants to do through your body in that moment? It might be just to sit with them, to hug them, to let them cry, to talk it through, or it may end up being an impromptu satsang. But to live as the self in that moment is to not know what will happen, what the best way to help that person is. And it might just be showing up for them. So this definition, as I went through my own process, my own journey of what this meant to live as the truth, was very, very different. When some strong emotion came up, and I'd already contemplated, I'd seen the story isn't true. To live as a self then was just to be that space in which the emotion was flooding through my body, being felt very strongly, and allowing it to exist inside my body, to be felt, gently questioning whether I'm really accepting it or whether I'm just kind of feeling it so it will go away later. And perhaps the most important thing I want to bring out here is that perhaps we won't know what it means to live as the self until we're asked to do it in that particular moment. Maybe it means standing up for ourselves when we perhaps might normally have acquiesced to somebody else to do something that we don't really want to do. Perhaps it means to forgive someone instead of holding on to some resentment. And really, the definitions of what it means to live as the self, to abide as the truth, are perhaps as infinite as the self is itself. I've listed some of the ways for me that has been lived out, what it means for me to be the infinite being. Perhaps most importantly, not to have one strategy, because life will constantly challenge you to change that. I used to think that living as a self was to forgive everyone and try to be friends with everyone. And life showed me sometimes the best way to live as a self is to let someone move away from you. On and on it goes. How can we know what the self would do or be as you in any particular moment until it happens? So here's another definition then. Maybe it's openness, maybe it's curiosity, maybe it's willingness to see. And I had this little mantra: what would the self do, or what would love do? And I would try to carry it around, sometimes on a piece of paper, you know me with the post-it notes, but usually try to carry it around in my heart, or my head at least, so that I wasn't coming at life with this fixed idea, this strategy that just a one-size-fits-all way of navigating through existence. And life, even now, the self, life, same thing, is still showing me new ways to live as a self. Subtler and subtler, and yet still ongoing. I wanted to bring this forward here because for me, I got very stuck here for a very long time. And it somehow intuitively didn't feel right to try to keep my attention on awareness when somebody was crying in front of me, you know, and you just want to comfort them in some way. Or, you know, when you're going through something, sometimes you can't keep your attention on the awareness, the stillness. This is just too many thoughts and attention goes to them. What's called for in that moment is self-love, acceptance. I'm really still believing this story here, and it's okay. I'd like to let it go, but it's okay that I'm still believing in it. Perhaps just taking a moment now to think about the latest issue or challenge that you have or had, looking at how you handled that and seeing if there might be a different definition of living as the self that's trying to emerge for you. What if life is taking you to all these little places where it's showing you a different way to be authentic? What does that mean in any moment? I don't know. I can only tell you what it means in this moment for this body right now. And it's this. And do we have to have just a fixed idea of what that is? Can we really pin something down that's infinite into this is how it's going to be? And would that feel good anyway? If we look back at our life, or what we think it means to be awakened, you'll find that life has constantly contradicted that, if we're honest. It did for me. In some very challenging times, life showed me that to be the self in that moment was to feel these emotions and feel peace, and sometimes even bliss at the same time. My idea about what it would be to live as a self would to be not feel any negative emotions at all. In reality, life said, be these emotions right now, feel them the best that I can. So just taking a moment to absorb this and to see if we can hold the intention to be as open as we can be to whatever that is in this moment. Life may ask you to show up for people and things who need a little bit of compassion or peace in their life, a little bit of the undivided essence of a little bit of presence. And it may not be at all for the reason that you think. And here's another definition then for me. Living as a self was being constantly willing to challenge why I thought anything is happening at all. Never really wanting to come to a final conclusion about why anything's going on at all in my life. Because the moment I have a final conclusion, I'm in a box, in a small space, in a box, and I have to live that conclusion over and over again. We don't really know why anything's happening. We're just the experiencing of that happening. So I hope that this is helpful to relax a little more into what it means to be authentic. I had a very fixed idea of what awakening was, what authenticity was, what it means to be the self. At first, I thought it was to be like the teachers that we see, the non-dual teachers, that to be awakened meant that we had to teach, but it isn't so. It will look different for each one of us, and in any particular moment, it will be different. What does it mean for you right now to be authentic? If you're listening to this and you're restless and you're irritated, can you be that fully? If you're listening to this and you're deeply blissed out and peaceful, can you be that fully? If your attention keeps wandering away to the mind, even though you really want to hear what's been said, can you be the love that would forgive that instantaneously? There's nothing even to forgive there. If you're believing a story right now that you don't deserve freedom, can you challenge that right now as the self, the infinite self? Is that really true? If I am freedom, is it true I don't deserve it? Could it be true? So living as the self, abiding as truth, really becomes a constantly evolving thing rather than a rigid thing. And becomes delightful and joyful, actually, to find out what it means in this moment. Most of all, awakening brings for us peace, because there's a deep and rich authenticity that at first asks to be expressed and then demands later in awakening. You can't be inauthentic at all. You can't say something that isn't true for you. You can't do something you don't really want to. On and on it goes. So just practicing that throughout the rest of your day, throughout the rest of this satsang, of course, but throughout the rest of your day and life. What would the self do here? If you've gone back into illusion again of being a separate being, are you going to punish yourself by telling stories? Or are you going to inquire what the self would do in that moment? There's an event that happens and we can go this way or this way, totally different. You go back into illusion, you're believing a thought, your body starts to tell you this is not true. Start telling stories. I shouldn't have believed my mind. I should be beyond that by now. You go off over here. If instead you forgive yourself, well, it happened, I'd rather it didn't, but it happened. You go off over here. Completely different. And there's always happening in every moment. Opportunity to be the self or to be the ego. What it means to be the self, I can't tell you. I can only share some of the ways that it's been for me. And perhaps it resonates, some of what I've said has resonated with you. And I really hope to continue exploring what it means for me to be this throughout the rest of this body's existence and beyond. And I'd like to invite you into that, to just not know what that is. What does it mean to be free, to be awakened, to be the self? I don't know. I can tell you it tends to come with peace and a deep sense of love and joy. But I don't actually know what that is in its moment by momentness, but you can discover and delight in them. So I hope that was helpful to navigate through life that way. I have some, as always, some questions that have been sent in, and then I'll open it up here live. And see if I can get through 3 of these questions. If you'd like to ask a question here today or share something, feel free to raise your hand. We'll take up to 4 people here online, first 4. This first question says, Dear Helen, I write with overwhelming gratitude to you and your teachings. Just finished week 1 of dissolving the ego course. For so many years, I have been focusing on how to awaken via the mind. Thank you for showing me how to focus instead on the place which is so totally separate from the mind. I've known this place all of my life and yet didn't understand that all I needed to do was to open to it. I'm willing to go deeper and deeper into this vast, boundless presence of love. Thank you for being my guide. Namaste. That's wonderful. I'm so glad that you're getting so much out of the course. And all the ways that we do in lesson 1 of the course to find what is real, to tune into what is authentic about us. They're all just names: silence, stillness, presence, consciousness, beingness, existence, I amness. They're all just names to elicit an openness, aren't they? A curiosity for that. And for me, recognizing this distinction between thinking about what's real and actually experiencing it was so vital. Because if I can rest as that stillness, rest in that stillness, and then increasingly feel I'm resting as that stillness, that presence, that consciousness, it's going to begin to change my life. And most of all, I'm not going to really be able to listen to my mind so much anymore when it says that I'm never going to get there, because I'm experiencing it. So we can spend a lifetime thinking about what's real, and as a way to avoid actually experiencing it. So wonderful. So glad you're diving in deeply. Okay, let me go to the second one. Hello, Helen. I have enjoyed finding you. Thank you. I've been at this journey of finding peace for my whole life, and I'm wondering if it makes okay sense to work with several or even many different questions with contemplations as beliefs arise. I, like many, have lots of beliefs that like to take turns with me, so I'd be interested in any advice in this regard. Thank you. So I'm wondering if it makes sense to work with several or even many different questions with contemplation as beliefs arise. I would, it depends where you're at in your process in the learning the contemplation. First, if you're very new to this, I would recommend just sticking with one belief or one emotion and one question until you've really got the swing of it, how to stay open to all the answers that want to come. If you're finding that many beliefs are popping up, when I started to do this, there was like a list of beliefs that mind wanted me to question, and it was putting things underneath on the list as fast as I was crossing them off the top. I don't believe that one anymore. There was like things going underneath this endless to-do list because my mind wanted to still be in a process as someone. So it can bring this kind of situation where you feel overwhelmed with beliefs to question, where there's too many. And that in itself is showing us a story. Overwhelm is a kind of an emotion, isn't it? It's kind of saying, I'm never going to get to the end of this. I'm always going to be trapped or stuck. So we can question that story too. I would advise against changing the question or having many questions for one belief, because that's another way that mind can subtly avoid sticking with one question. If you're working with is it really true I'm not good enough, for example, and suddenly it feels lighter and more true to ask, is it true I don't deserve love, as an example, of course, then that's your body telling you now the question wants to change because you've changed vibrationally. But if we're thinking about whether to change the question, it's probably some form of resistance. Just to, you can use your body, you can play with the new question, think the new question in your head and feel, does this feel lighter, more real, more important, this question right now? And if your body sort of contracts a little bit or dips, or you feel unfocused, your body's way of telling you this is truth or this is resistance is going to be unique for each one of us. For me, when I was substituting a question for something that wasn't a real question in that moment, my body just kind of went a bit flat. The life force dipped a bit. When I was noticing a question that wanted to emerge spontaneously as a result of the questioning I've already done, I got kind of like goosebumps and a little thrill, a little rush of energy through the body. Just playing with that, because it will never steer you wrong, the body. It's always giving you real-time feedback. This is avoidance, and this is where we really need to go with the question. So I hope that helps. Even if there are many beliefs coming up, you only really need to question 2 or 3 of them fully to see it release, and you'll see that you've only ever believed those because attention has been on the experience. So we have a belief inside and we experience that belief as our reality. And as you've undone that process with 2 or 3 big beliefs, you'll see that that's the only thing that's ever been going on in your life. And it's easier and easier to just look at the stories and go, I've no evidence that this is true at all, except for my experience, which is a reflection of this belief. So it's like taking away the support structures from a building, the foundations of a building. This separate sense of self is like a building. And we're taking out bricks here, there, and everywhere. Eventually, it just falls down by itself. Most of the work you won't even have to do there. Okay, so we'll go to Ashani whenever you're ready. Okay. Hi.
Hello. First, I want to share that I remember I asked you a question about I don't get what I want some months ago, that I was trying to move many times. I know I'm moving, so I know it's happening. So that's great.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And what I start to see is that I've been overthinking my whole life.
Haven't we all?
And I start to see that it's control, and I have been struggling a lot to feel the emotion because I felt it was so much. And now I'm crying a lot. Each time I listen to you, I cry a lot, and each time I feel this love, and I cry more. And I feel also this. I always felt that next retreat or next year or next satsang, but now I feel like this window, this door is going smaller and smaller. It's the feeling there's no way to escape so much anymore. And I feel sometimes this listen. I don't feel I have as many questions, but maybe a support on this, because it's so much happening and so much emotion and so much. It's no way to go anymore. I have to stay here and to be with what is.
Yeah.
And I see that, yeah. And it's great in a way, and also challenging. Yeah. And there's a deep longing.
There's that knowing, right? You've got into that place now where all you can do is like stay as the self, like we were saying. And sometimes that's crying your eyes out. Sometimes that's questioning a belief. But there's no backwards from there, because you somehow can't go back to telling stories about yourself and believing them, you've come too far. And that's really good in some ways, but slightly scary in other ways, because, you know, you can't suppress anything. It's just going to come up.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's no strategy that's working anymore. It feels like it's this is what is. Yeah. And
it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. We have no strategies left, although whatever's left of our separate self is freaking out big time. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to do here. So
yeah,
it's very normal.
yesterday it's very normal. Yeah. Because yesterday I was sitting in and had the attention on the space, and then suddenly I felt a lot was I felt I had to scream in a pillow because there was so much energy that was coming up when I was sitting, and it's okay. I just did that, and it felt much better.
Yeah.
So
And
it's a way.
authenticity in that moment, isn't it? That's what's a moment before, it's just noticing the emptiness. A moment later, it's just really letting this emotion happen.
Yeah.
So just knowing that it's quite a turbulent time, because for me, there was a lot of emotions coming up to be released. There was also, so the tears over that, but there was also a lot of tears of relief that I was finally seeing my awakening happen deep, like you were saying. So I think I spent, I don't know, like 1 or 2 years just crying on and off, you know. But there was a couple of months where there's a lot of crying when I first started to really, it's like my body just had to let go of this stuff, these energies.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of energy that the body want to release, to let go
It's
of.
been like this, hasn't it? All this kind of stuff stuck in.
Yeah. And it feels like a kind of a pressure cooker that wants to have a release.
Pandora's box. Oh, okay, the lid is off.
Yeah.
It's very normal, but you can feel a little like you're going a little insane, you know, when you're laughing 1 minute and crying the next, you know, or sometimes both at the same time.
Yeah.
It is very normal. Just being gentle with yourself as always, and recognizing, perhaps most importantly, this is happening because your awakening is really, really deepening now. And the infinite self can't resist anything. It has to be authentic in that moment.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful to talk to you. Thank you. You look totally different as well. You're just absolutely glowing.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sure other people have said it too, but anyway, good to talk to you. Thanks. We'll go to John. When you're ready, John. Yeah. Wonderful.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm in a lot of pain and a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And feel abandoned. And I don't know what to do. Been sent home with just a load of painkillers, tranquilizers.
Yeah.
And just lying here alone and scared.
Well, I just want to start by saying how amazing it is you put your hand up and are reaching out here, and we are all here for you. It may feel like you're alone, but there are beings with you right now that you can't see with your eyes, that if you reach out to them, they will help you as well. You also have the support of this whole Sangha family here. We're all there for you. And maybe all we can do is be here with you right now, and maybe that's enough. Can you notice that you're doing amazing? You're reaching out. You're talking here on this satsang when perhaps you wouldn't have before.
It's horrible to feel this way, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know. And I'll be honest, there's so much anger.
Yeah.
Because it feels unjust. Yeah.
Can you And you might not be able to, and it's totally okay if you can't, and it's no pressure from me, but can you really just let the anger come up? Most people, I mean,
There's so many emotions, you know. It's just one of so many.
yeah.
Scream.
Feeling it as much as you can right now. Feeling it.
Scream that I could scream, you know, the fucking just injustice of when you felt it, when you've been a part of it, and when you've seen it, and then find it dealt in your own direction.
Yeah.
I am innocent totally of this. Is not as if just the anger, the injustice of being left there in pain, and having no one.
You have us. You have a huge family you've just inherited. A huge family. A family that love you already as you are and don't need you to be different.
Wish I had some family. Yeah, I know. I can hear you say that.
Yeah, I know. I know. Right now, you'd like to be with someone that you can trust. I get that.
Yeah,
totally, but
yeah.
Do you have anyone that you could reach out to just to sit with you for a few hours?
No, there's no one.
Uh-huh.
I've done everything I can. I reached out to the authorities and go take a running jump.
Yeah, they don't always. Sadly, they don't always respond in the way that we would like or even want. I have had experience of that myself, so
yeah,
right there with you in that respect. And sometimes they, through whatever situation is going on, they can even leave us feeling worse afterwards than before.
Yeah.
So
it was like that little child inside, being a child, whatever.
Yeah.
That just needs his mum
Most
and dad,
importantly,
stupid, 60 years old. Just need your mum and dad,
Were you able to join any of our sanghas? Any of the?
No, I looked a few times, but they seemed all to be middle of the night, Australia.
Okay, well, there are some in UK time zones. We'll see if we can get you some extra help with that. We'll see what we can do with it. But I just want to say, most of all, how amazing you're doing by reaching out here and sharing this. Can you let yourself feel it?
I could just cry.
Then
for the rest of my life, it seems.
Yeah.
You know?
Will you let yourself feel it today, now, here with me? You are safe here, loved and supported. You don't have to be any certain way here in Satsang. You be feeling whatever you're feeling as best you can.
My ego just saying, don't even say these things, don't reach out, don't say anything. And the thing is, I knew that I was burying so much emotions by smoking, just literally cigarettes, whatever. And that wasn't doing me any good. It was burying stuff, and I wasn't breathing properly, And I thought, I've got to stop. So I stopped about 9 days now.
So look at what's going on for you. You've stopped that, and here you are reaching out, and you're feeling the best that you can. You're feeling these emotions that you've tried to avoid, like we all have. We've all found various ways to avoid. For me, it was alcohol, even meditation. I would meditate to avoid feeling what I was feeling.
Yeah.
All of those things. And so it's a significant sign of progress that you're feeling these now, even though it feels awful, absolutely awful. It is nonetheless some progress. These emotions can finally begin to come up and leave the system. They're all kind of stuck in the body, right?
Christ, yeah. You know, if I had one friend,
Yeah.
You know, I can't stay here forever, obviously. You know, I could talk to you for a long time, but I respect the singer. Yeah, I respect.
If you can,
I'm a good
silent
man.
prayer inside, John. A silent
I
prayer
am a good
inside.
man. You
Yeah.
know, I
You
am
are
a
a good
good man.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
Good man.
A good man that bad things have happened to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now you have found your way to a loving family and support network here. Perhaps you want us to come back to you later, John? You're muted there. I'm not sure if you realize.
Yeah, you know,
Okay.
screaming and shouting and crying, so I thought I better mute, you know.
Okay.
But I love you.
Love you too. And we're here for you anytime you need, okay? Wonderful. Thank you for reaching out. Okay, we'll go to Don, last but not least.
Hey,
Hi.
I've had a better week. And then this morning I got up, I was going to go out and listen to this, and my car was breaking, so that sort of frustrated me. I wanted to report, like, on my family front, I was much more relaxed with them and more sort of seeing their point of view and seeing the just trying not to let the political divide get any energy, and not giving it any energy from myself, and not carrying it with me. And from that way, I was a little bit more respectful. And this stuff with Hamas and Israel and has been, I guess, sort of eye-opening, in as much that I don't really know what's right there, and I have no idea what's the best thing. It just breaks my heart all the way around. And so I didn't really have a political opinion, and I didn't really have an idea of what to do, and so I didn't fight any of the other, conversation. So I was pretty happy with that, and sort of becoming more accepting of what my parents are doing with my brother, and sort of like learning, just like the politics stuff, learn to accept it and then make your decisions. Like you've always said, accept, you can't change anything until you accept it.
Yeah.
Where it is. So
that's
kind of
progress, isn't it? Because I know before you were doing what all human beings do, which is trying to change something so that we feel better.
Right.
Yeah. But if you can come to peace first, then things have a chance of changing for us.
Yeah. And they don't need to change if you come to peace.
Yeah. Which is why they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And that is a profound insight in itself, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So I just, kind of, and even though how they're handling some things is irrational to me, I understand their logic better. And so it makes more sense to me to understand their logic.
Yeah.
So
it's the beginning of real unconditional love emerging, isn't it? That I can begin to understand and accept, while still loving myself enough to have a preference what I'd like to experience here.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Thank you for updating us on your progress. Okay. John, did you want to say something else before we finish?
You said if we could come to peace first.
Yeah.
And the guy said, if we were at peace, that wouldn't be a problem. you know, if we're at peace with ourselves.
Yeah.
And it sounds so goddamn tempting, because it sounds like, wow, you know, that would be freedom.
That is
But is it?
available right now for all of us. Peace comes from acceptance right now. So accepting what you feel right now and feeling it, peace will be evident in that. Not trying to change how you are in this moment. Not trying to conform to some idea of what it means to be you or awakened or whatever that is. And feeling what you feel, being who you are, showing up however you're showing up in this moment. That's authenticity, isn't it?
It seems there's the final question is to who's in control?
Who's in control, did you say?
Yeah, you know.
Of what?
Of life. Yeah, I've been, this ego or whatever is controlled.
Well, it thinks it has. It thinks it's controlled everything, but it never really did. It's always been the only thing that ever really existed was the infinite self. The ego is just an idea we have of who we are. And it was never the true. There's nothing wrong with it, of course. It's got us to this point, but now its effectiveness is beginning to break down because we're ready to switch over to something much bigger. That's what's happening for you right now, this switch over. It feels terrible. It feels awful.
Yeah.
But it is happening. Awakening cannot be stopped.
I cannot deny what's happening. It feels like a horror.
Yeah.
And that little boy, just I can see him. Yeah.
I had to, as part of my awakening, I had to get back in touch with a part of me inside that I haven't really wanted to start to talk to for a very long time. That which felt she never got love as a child, and all the stories I was telling myself. I had to really meet that part of me. This is what you're doing here now. Just meeting it, there's peace. Just accepting this is still inside me, there's peace. It's like to survive life as a separate being, as a someone who we thought we were, we've had to split off parts of our self and just not look at them. I can't look at that. It's too big. That's too painful. So awakening is kind of allowing us to come back into the whole in a way. And sometimes that comes with emotion, a lot of emotion.
Yeah, so much energy.
Yeah. All this is to say, what you're going through is, it doesn't feel good at all. It feels like a real breaking down, but it is normal in awakening. It's not pleasant at all. Practice, quite unpleasant at times, but it is normal, and it is a sign of progress for me. If you weren't feeling emotions, you'd still be repressing them, suppressing them. The reason they're coming up now is because you're living more as who you really are, which wants to meet these things, express them, and turn them, allow them to turn back into peace or love. So that's what's occurring.
Yeah. Face to face.
Yeah. All the parts of us that we wanted to avoid.
Who's going to back down first? Fucking. Yeah. God bless.
You sound a little calmer now. Are you feeling any better?
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm here. I'm making myself vulnerable by putting this out. I know that.
The only way
child
that we can continue to suffer is if we listen to that egoic voice that says, don't raise your hand, don't speak up, don't ask for help. So you've just overcome that already by speaking here, and that if I know that someone can do that, I know they're going to be okay. They're really okay now, but they will feel okay too.
Yeah, and the rest is just to feel the pain as well, but without trying to change it,
Yeah.
Just to feel the
pain
kind of
is different when physical pain is different when we encounter it without our stories about it. It still hurts, of course, it hurts. But the stories we're telling around it are so much worse. Yeah.
It's a whole Bible in itself.
It is. It's another testament there in all of our stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sending you lots of love, and hope you feel better.
Thank you. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, so that's a good place to leave the satsang for today. Thank you for all your brave sharings and the questions that you sent in here. We read some of them out, and thank you for your courage as always to share what is not easy. But in that sharing, we open up. In the not sharing, we close down and we stay as a separate being. Everyone that shares here in satsang or in the community is helping everyone else a little bit to realize they're not the only one going through it. And just because I'm sitting here calm and peaceful right now doesn't mean I haven't been right where you are. It's only because I have been there that I can actually be of any help right now with this. So you will come out the other side of this into peace. Thank you. Namaste.
Mm-hmm.